2025 has proven to be one of the toughest years of my life. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Right? The whole 9 yards, right? This has been one of the toughest years of my life where there's been a lot of highs and there's been a lot of downs. And in this video, I want to recap on exactly what happened at the start all the way to now, the 20th of December, and really share with you guys the lessons that I've learned this year as well, because that's the most important part, right? So what happened at the start of this year was something that actually, changed my life for the better, which is going to Dubai and seeing what is really out there. Because, just for context, I live in Perth. I'm not in Perth right now. This is my Sydney Airbnb that I'm staying at for a little bit. But yeah, in Perth, like it's it's like a small town, right? Or at least to me, it feels like a small town where everything feels very familiar. I talk to the same people, the same friends, family, the whole 9 yards, right? Where I experience the same thing, go through my, monotonous routine, right? So really like the purpose of Dubai, going out there, was really just like a pattern interrupt. Also seeing my mentor as well. Seeing what was really out there, seeing what's affluent, right? Because you can see the reels, you can like watch the YouTube videos of like the cars in Dubai, the lifestyle, the mansions, whatever, the villas. But until you actually experience it and actually see it in real life, it doesn't feel real. Because like, for example, on Instagram, right, you can just scroll past a reel and, turn off your phone and, you're back in real life. But in Dubai, when you're actually around those people, when you're actually around the energy, the vibrations, the frequency of Dubai, it's just a different type of energy. You will just feel different. Naturally, you just make more money. It's like, at least I like to call it the Dubai air, the Dubai atmosphere, where in that month of January, I've made the most amount of money that I've ever made in a single month up until that point, right? Which, looking back at it in the grand scheme of things, isn't crazy. I made 10 grand a month. But to me back then, that was eye-opening because I didn't really work that hard. I just worked like maybe 2-3 hours in a day, and I made 10 grand a month, working like 5-6 days a week, and I only worked for like 3 weeks really in Dubai. And so that really, I was like, damn, like this is truly crazy because the level of standard over there is just immensely more than what I was experiencing back in Perth and even here in Sydney, right? The customer service, how fast things move in Dubai, how, people communicate. Seeing my mentor, that was the biggest eye-opening piece, right? Seeing Connor Healy, right? Because before then, I was just like on Zoom calls with him, on group calls, and he was just roasting my calls, right? He was just like saying, hey, Bal, like this is so bad, da-da-da, da-da-da, and all that stuff. And like him helping me out with like stuff over Zoom and stuff like that. But like seeing him in real life, speaking with him, eating with him, observing how he moves, observing how he thinks, it really opened up my eyes to what high performance really looks like. What high level thinking, what high level perspectives really look like. Because before that point, I really didn't really have anyone except for my best mate, Kashi. Even then, like I knew this guy from high school. Like we think in a very similar way. Having your mentor right there in the flesh, walking you through certain topics, concepts, high level spirituality, esoteric stuff, that was really eye-opening for me. That was a very positive experience. I definitely want to go back to Dubai next year, just to like see my mentor again, go again with my mate and, spend more money, right? So that was that. Then what happened when I came back to Perth, some very unfortunate news was brought up to me, and that was that my auntie didn't really have all that much time left on the planet. That whole time when I was in Vietnam with her, I wasn't really present, right? And I really deeply regretted that because before that point, I haven't seen her in real life for 11 years when I went back to Vietnam in 2014. And that was when I was like, 8-9 years old, something like that. And so when I went back to Vietnam again, I was just half of my attention was in work and half of my attention was with her. Whereas what I should have done upon reflection was just have my full attention on her, right? On my family and showing her support. Because like, I mean, look, she's one of my heroes, to be quite frank with you, right? The way that she lived her life, you know, how humble she was. You know, she was so generous, you know, in giving her wealth and in giving her wisdom and knowledge to, you know, her community. She was very revered in her community as well. And me not being present in her final moments in life, when all she had left really was family and I couldn't be there with her, that brought me a lot of shame and a lot of doubt and a lot of regret. And like that really, like, I don't know, that really pierced me emotionally. And that really, and because of that, when I came back from Perth, you know, after she passed and all that, you know, I started making very, very emotional decisions with my opportunities that were presented to me professionally. And I didn't really capitalize on majority of them because of that. You know, that brings me on to the first lesson, which is knowing which game to play in your personal life and in your professional life. And, you know, because this is mainly, you know, for high ticket salespeople, and that's mainly my audience, like, what you have to recognize in this space and in this whole high ticket sales business game is that not only are you playing the game of, you know, getting more sales, getting more clients, but you're also playing in the game of relationships and perception management. Earlier on this year, I thought skill sets and making sales and closing deals, that was the only thing that mattered. But what truly matters as well, and, you know, what is equally as important, is how you are perceived in this whole entire space amongst your peers, amongst your colleagues, amongst offer owners, sales managers. They are the people who are going to give you these opportunities. Your reputation precedes you in this whole online business space. And honestly, I didn't play that to my most advantage because I thought it was just about closing deals, but it's also about how you are perceived. For example, the worst salespeople that I know, the ones who aren't even performing as well as me, or the ones who are just on a lay down offer, who doesn't even have the same amount of skills as me, they're on the opportunities that they're on because of the way that they manage their perception. So that's the first thing. The second thing, my personal life, you know, playing that game, you don't want to burn your relationships. Going back to the example with my auntie, the game that I should have played was just ultimately just being present with her. That should have been my whole objective when I went to Vietnam, but I clearly didn't. And now I have to deal with the grief, the level of regret of not maximizing my time with her. Even with my friends, I barely get to see my friends. You know, I only get to see them maybe once every 3-6 months. That's it, right? I rarely go out as well. You know, playing that game and, you know, needing to be like ultimately be present with that and like being cognizant of that and like having the long-term vision of, you know, what happens if I don't, you know, be present in my relationships now. It's going to hurt me in the future. So that's the first thing. Knowing what schemes that you need to play, when to deploy those schemes, and like how to actually position yourself in your personal life, in your professional life, in the best way possible so that you can actually succeed. Right? So that's lesson number one. Lesson number two is everyone is out there for their own selfish reasons in your personal life and in your professional life, especially in professional. Everyone, like no one cares about you. Going back to the first lesson, which is, you know, playing the game properly. Because I didn't play the game properly, you know, other people, peers, colleagues of mine, you know, they started taking advantage of me. They started seeing themselves as greater than me. They started seeing me as someone who's, you know, not worth networking with, or, you know, someone who they can backstab. And unfortunately, I've been backstabbed multiple times this year. And, you know, not a moment in my heart of hearts have I ever thought about backstabbing them or like even trying to play that game, because I know that long term that wouldn't serve me. But then like at the same time, you know, you get your name dragged into the mud quite a few times, and you learn how to deal with it. You learn with the perception management and how to actually go back to that, you know, and go back to your normal self, to how you were managed, you know, perceived before. You know, people just realizing that people can backstab you with, you know, in an instant. That's something that I've learned. And, you know, going to 2026, and even now, even when I learned the lesson like a couple months back, I've realized to not divulge too much information about me, about my personal life, or, you know, just about me and, you know, what I'm planning for the future in general, because like it doesn't serve me to really tell those people. Even if it doesn't harm me, it doesn't serve me either, so why would I do it? Just realizing that, and even in my personal life, even though I haven't been taken advantage of, just always having an eye on the back of on the back of my head, just knowing what's out there, just, you know, being cognizant that, you know, people aren't there for your best intentions. And, you know, to be honest, I'm fine with that. In my life, and, you know, one of my code of conducts is that I will never snake someone. I will never do anyone dirty. I will never do any unethical business. You know, I will never lie. I will never manipulate. I will never do anything of that, of that nature, because it doesn't serve me long term, right? But, you know, some people don't have that perspective, and I always need to have that in mind so that I can actually position myself in the best position possible to succeed, right? So that's lesson number 2. Lesson number 3 is that all truths are half-truths in life. What I mean by all truths are half-truths is that whatever you believe in, it's all based on your perception. Because, for example, someone who says that making 100 grand a month is hard, you know, they're right. You know, 100 grand per month is hard. And at the same time, someone who says 100 grand per month is easy, you know, they're also right, because, you know, it is easy for them, you know, and what they see, what they perceive, what they experience, everyone has a story. And from that story becomes a belief. And from that belief comes your experience again and how you perceive things. And it's just a cycle. What I've learned to realize and what I learned to be more cognizant of is that, where do my beliefs come from? And more importantly, does this belief serve me or not? Because me believing that business is hard, then that's going to be my experience. That's going to be my perception that business is hard. If I really break it down, does that belief really serve me, or does that serve to harm me long term? Right? And for me personally, I think that serves to harm me long term. Another thing is, you know, does it really serve me to think that, you know, people are out here to, you know, harm me, or like to really like backstab me in business? Probably doesn't. But at the same time, always having that in mind, and always having, and always being, I hate this word, but being realistic, it doesn't harm you either. It doesn't harm me. Because like before that point, I always had this benefit of a doubt, you know, when developing relationships. You know, they did something wrong in the past, but, you know, that was a past self. You know, you forgive and you move on. Now, I no longer have that wishful thinking to that degree anymore. That's really served me. And what I mean, and, you know, just to break things down even further, what I mean by all truths are half-truths is that there's always a flip side of the coin, right? There's always two sides to every story. And so you know, for me now, when I realize that, when I fully like internalized that lesson, you know, just a couple months ago, I now am more empathetic to how people perceive life and how people perceive business. And that really like helps me with where people are coming from, and, you know, empathizing with them, and again, pushing my agenda as well on like how I should push certain buttons and things like that. But yeah, that basically recaps my 2025, and, you know, moving forward, the lessons that I've learned for 2026 and beyond. Hopefully you guys got some value out of this. I know I did, for me, because going into 2026, same time next year, I'm going to look back at this video and see if I've really internalized these lessons. I hope you guys stay safe. I hope you guys stay healthy, and I'll catch you guys later.